Yo, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to the Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. Here we are yet again for week, I don't even know what it is anymore. Week 12 episode, no, week 13.
Week 13.
Week 13, episode 12. Here we are yet again. I've gotten rid of the helmet. It's no good. It's not helping me. Guys, we're back. Week 12, our 12th recording. We've made it this far. What do you guys have to say? Isn't it great to do this?
Let's go.
It is. Hey, we are, 3/4 of the way through the season? Getting better every week?
Something like that. It's almost fantasy football playoffs. Thank you so much for being a part of our huddle. Your hosts, Shed, Will, Olu, and Matt. We're excited to share our fantasy football takes with you yet again. Week 12 recap, Week 13 preview. The Lions finally won on Thanksgiving. And Josh Dobbs threw 4 interceptions, and the Bears still barely won the game.
Hold on. The Lions did not win on Thanksgiving.
Wait, they lost?
Yeah, they lost.
What are you saying? The Packers beat them. What are we talking about? Listeners, we do watch football. Jordan Love beat the Lions.
Well, okay. For the record, let me say what I was doing on Thanksgiving
You fell
morning,
asleep in the fourth quarter.
No. This is what I'll say I was doing. Every year, my wife and I, we make pies for literally many of the families that we're close to in the Boston area. We ended up making 20 pies, and we drive around and we hand deliver them to all these friends of ours. So I was tracking the game on my phone rather than actually watching the game. So I don't remember too much of it because I wasn't watching it. I just assumed the Lions won for some reason, but that is a dangerous assumption to make.
Yeah.
We should start this recording over since I've already started off wrong.
2 things that don't deliver on Thanksgiving, USPS and the Detroit Lions.
I remember this one time. I used to watch Jay Leno back in the day when Jay Leno was on TV. I loved Jay Leno. Hilarious.
The chin.
And Jay, I hope you're following us. And I remember he had this one joke. He was like, "Hey, what's that stuff on Thanksgiving that makes you really tired?" Oh yeah, the Detroit Lions. Anyways, 1 minute of shine, guys. 1 minute of shine. Shed, you're up first.
All right, so this is going to be an interesting episode for me because I'm going to focus on the Dallas Cowboys. Most of my talking points are going to revolve around the Dallas Cowboys. I'll start off by saying that the Cowboys, as a team, they lead the league in point differential.
Yeah.
Numero uno with 162. So in their same division, the Eagles, who are Super Bowl contenders, people are saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, who came back with the Bills and won, and who may actually win it all. They're actually 7th in points differential at 64. So the Cowboys are 100 point differential better than the Eagles. Point being, we need to start adding the Cowboys to Super Bowl conversation. Not a Cowboys fan, but at this point, got to give them the respect and their love.
Cowboys fans are going to love that. They're going to love you for that. Okay.
I believe Olu, you're next, right?
My 1 minute shine. Let's go. So I invented a new way of ranking quarterbacks. Okay, no laughing, guys. Shut your mouth. And anyway, a new way of ranking quarterbacks. Okay, so the way I rank them is this: if a coach gets fired under a quarterback's watch, that means they're not a top tier quarterback. They're not. Okay. If the OC gets fired, they're like, all right. But the ultimate test for top quarterback is when the OC gets a head coaching job, and it's almost proof fail proof. So if you look at it, what's his name? Jalen Hurts, his OC got hired as a head coordinator. What's his name? Mahomes. Every OC that's worked with him usually gets hired. Unless your name is Eric Bieniemy. Who else?
I was just about to say that.
He just had a lateral move, not an upgrade.
I mean, that's he's carrying all this stuff with him. That's something else. I'm not gonna get to that. And then you have Justin Herbert, whose coach just got fired. I mean, he's about to get fired. What's his name? Fields' coach got fired a while ago. They got another coach, and this one's on a hot seat. So I think this really tells you, kind of gives you a sense of, all right, is he a great quarterback? Is he not a good quarterback? Is whether the coach gets fired the OC gets a job, or just the OC gets fired. So those are different, tiers of
So
quarterback.
how do you explain Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady
He got a head coaching job twice.
and got
Right.
fired each time?
No,
No.
right, but you're making Olu's point in that case, right? Because
That's true.
Tom Brady
Now
has
you're
nothing
right.
to
That
do
is
with
true.
what happened on those other teams.
That is true. That is
So,
true.
Olu, I got to ask you something. So your argument is that if a quarterback's offensive coordinator gets hired for a head coaching job, that is a sign that that quarterback is elite.
That's a sign like he's top tier for sure.
Okay, so my counter argument is that would make Nick Foles a top tier quarterback because the year they won the Super Bowl, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator and he immediately got hired by the Colts as the head
Okay.
coach.
All right, let's backtrack. So that was not based. No. Listen. Yeah, you gotta go with me. That was not based on McFoles. That was based on how well they did throughout the season. And what's his name?
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz had the MVP season was if he didn't get hurt. So that him getting a head coach job wasn't just because McFoles showed up and won the Super Bowl. No, they were on fire throughout that year. So that proves my point.
Okay, so what about Josh Allen? His OC got hired,
Yes.
right? Which is the Giants' head coach. Yet at the same time, his head coach could get fired.
And
so
his
he might
OC,
be one of each.
His OC already got fired this year.
Got fired. Yeah.
So that's a very interesting case, right? So I did say the OC got hired, and everybody knows during that time or period he had that OC, he was on fire. We all knew that. He was top 3 quarterbacks in the league, like no questions asked, and he wasn't number 3. So we all knew, everybody knew that. But this year, everyone is down on Josh. Like, man, Josh is not doing this, is not doing that. So as a quarterback, you can always progress and digress. For example, Rodgers. Let's take Rodgers for example. He did well, whatever, coaches got jobs, whatever. And then got to a point where his head coach got fired. During that time, Rodgers was stale. He was stale. Then eventually they brought in Jordan Love. And they brought in Jordan Love. He got mad, like, oh, you know what? You're going to do this to me? All right, cool. Let me now play MVP caliber. Once he did that, his OC got a job somewhere else. Okay. And so it's like everything. You either go up or go down. So it depends on your play as a quarterback. If your coach gets fired as a quarterback, you're not a good quarterback. If your OC
that year.
That year, right, that year. But we gave you 5 minutes of shine. 5 minutes shine here.
One more point. So my whole premise is now based around Bryce Young. I'm scared for that young man. For Bryce Young. Is coach getting fired? The owner is horrible. Oh my gosh, he's horrible. No other coach will want to go coach for that team. I don't think players will want to go there. So that's going to stall his development. And once the quarterback's confidence gets broken now, then that's a problem. So anyway, I'll pass the mic.
Sitting at the feet of Olu, the king of Zamunda.
Yes,
Come on,
the
man.
5 minutes of shine. All right, I'm going to make mine quick. My 1 minute of shine is 2 apologies I have to make. My first apology is to Trevor Lawrence. I'm sorry, man. I closed the book too soon on you. As soon as I said it, the last 2 weeks he has gone off. He turned a corner. The Jaguars are looking for real. They're going to win that division, and they may win 1 or 2 playoff games this year. My second apology is to our listeners for misleading you about Josh Dobbs. His insanity run is officially over. Josh, I mean, nothing. I don't mean any disrespect, all right? Nothing but respect, nothing but love for you, man. But you went from the pastronaut to playing like the trastronaut last night. 4 interceptions? Come on, man. I put myself out there for you. I thought you were the one. I thought you were going to lead the Vikings to the playoffs, maybe get a nice little contract. Not after what we saw last night against the Bears. That was the worst game we have watched as NFL fans all year. The Bears, the most Bears stat possible. They're the first team to win a game this year without scoring a touchdown. That is the most Bears stat you could possibly have. Those are my apologies. I had to correct false statements I made 3 weeks ago.
Our love for Josh Dobbs. We said the Josh Dobbs train. We were like, the Josh Dobbs train. 3 weeks later, we're like, by Josh Dobbs. Now we're like, dude threw 4 interceptions against
Yeah,
the
I
Bears.
know. Oh
Olu,
man.
Olu, Olu wants to jump back in. And now he's probably going to talk about how he ranks running backs.
Oh yeah, that's for another day. All right, cool. So with the Trevor Lawrence, what you'll say about Trevor Lawrence? I'll say slow down because you already do have a love-hate relationship with Trevor Lawrence. One week you're like, oh, Trevor Lawrence. Next week like, I don't like your hair, and then the other week like, man, you have the most amazing hair. So what I'm saying with Trevor Lawrence is, yes, the team played well. Trevor Lawrence played very well, but I wouldn't say that's day in day out every week. They that consistent. And another thing with Judge Dobbs is we have to remember what's his name is coming back this week. Justin Jefferson is coming back this week. So I don't know.
I heard he started coming back till week 14.
No, he's coming back this week. He's been
Well,
activated.
he started practicing today, but he may not be ready to play. We'll see. He could. That will obviously help Josh Dobbs, but I think he got exposed yesterday.
And my 1 minute of shine is my birthday was yesterday. It was awesome. I am now in my late 30s. Whew,
That's
it all
right.
goes downhill from here. All right. So, anyways, we have an awesome episode today. Will's going to take us through the injury roundup. Never like that one. We'll talk about biggest takeaways from week 12. Then we'll look ahead, like always, matchups to exploit, matchups to avoid. And then now we are officially done with our mid-season re-rankings. So we're bringing back debate time. We're talking about overrated or underrated. And then after that, we will go to our single game mock. Surprise, surprise. The King of Zamunda is not in first place anymore.
Oh.
But anyways, Will, take us away.
All right, so I'm going to save the biggest injury for last. There are 5 injuries to note after week 12 going into week 13. So the first one is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's been the Browns quarterback. He suffered a concussion. He's probably not going to be playing this upcoming week. It'll be P.J. Walker in there. So that's probably a downgrade for all their skill players. In addition, on the Browns, Amari Cooper with the rib injury is likely out this week. So that might be an offense just to stay away from in general. Then we've got Chris Olave also with a concussion. He's probably going to miss at least 1 week. You would say, oh, that helps Rashid Shaheed's stock, although he also is injured with a quad strain. Probably not going to play this week. Might miss even more than 1 week. So the Saints offense outside of Kamara, I don't know if there's anyone else you want to trust. But, of course, the biggest injury after week 12 is Jonathan Taylor with the thumb. He's going to have surgery, which knocks him out 2 to 3 weeks. So if you were relying on him the last couple weeks and you're kind of a bubble playoff team in your league, it might get rough. Hopefully you have Zach Moss or someone else to plug in there because he's going to be out leading right up to the start of the fantasy playoffs, unfortunately. Any thoughts on that, guys? Any other fallout from those injuries?
So I have 2 of those guys in my fantasy. Granted, right, Rashid Shaheed is a backup, but Jonathan Taylor is one of my guys.
And do you have Moss or no?
Now, the person I'm playing this week actually has Moss.
Oh,
So-
man, that's brutal.
So far, I'm undefeated, but she might take me down, except I traded for Mike Evans, and I got Mike Evans on my roster. So that's a plus.
Yes.
So we'll see how that goes.
No, my only thing, I mean, the Browns now going to a third string quarterback. It's
Yeah.
tough. They were looking really good despite playing a backup quarterback.
Right. Well, they lost to the Steelers in one of the more low-scoring games all year. They just couldn't do anything.
Golly, their offense has lost their top running back, their top quarterback,
Now their top receiver is out.
their top receiver.
And a defense, right? With
Oh,
Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett, too.
Golly, they might be the most injury ravaged team right now.
They may, yeah.
We got to
Yes.
get Ryan Painter back on here.
He's not going to be
Okay.
happy.
He won't be happy. All right, let's move on. Biggest takeaways from week 12. Obviously, I thought the Lions won, so my take might be a little bit interesting. But Shed, why don't you start us off, man?
So the biggest thing that I'm just amazed is that I told you this was the Dallas Cowboys segment or episode here, right? So Deron Bland and his Dallas Cowboys defense. If they win the Super Bowl, it will be because the defense has carried them.
Right.
They're top 5 in points allowed and tied for second in interceptions. Bland's record-breaking fifth pick 6 assisted in blowing out the Commanders on Thanksgiving Day.
It's nuts, dude.
This is an elite defense, right? They lead the league in turnovers this year, or they're leading the league, and last year they led it. So if they lead the league this year, it'll be the first time a defense had done it back to back since I think like the 70s or something like that. And
Wow.
let this sink in, guys. Let this sink in. Deron Bland, right? His pick sixes, 5 of them. He has more touchdowns than these NFL wide receivers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Tyler Lockett, Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith, and even his own teammate Brandon Cooks. So,
Gosh.
if Bland
There may
continues,
be
they're
guys
gonna
that never 5 touchdowns though.
But like Devontae Adams,
Devontae Adams, that one's legit.
That one is
That one
right.
is legit.
yeah.
So, oh, sorry, are you done? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. That's it.
So, can you imagine what if Trevor Diggs was there? They would have had 3 solid cornerbacks. That would have been crazy.
Yeah, if they still
Trevon
had
Diggs.
Trevon Diggs.
Diggs, I think he's overrated, man. I mean, he gets interceptions, but he also gives up.
But
Trevon Diggs, he gets interceptions, but he also gives up like the most passing yards in the league.
If you could be boom bust as a cornerback, right? Trayvon Diggs is boom or bust.
He's the Jameis Winston of defensive backs.
Oh, man.
That's what he is.
he gets
Interesting.
beat. He gets beat, but he also affects one of the most determinant stats in the game: turnovers. He gets a lot of those.
But it might
and
balance
Trayvon-
out. It might balance out with all the big plays he gives up.
I
Yeah.
would much rather have a cornerback that doesn't give up all those plays than a quarterback that gets those interceptions.
Okay.
Interceptions, look, now obviously I'm comparing him to the best corner in the game in Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner is never going to get 10 interceptions in a season, right?
Right.
But
They don't
I would
throw
much
to
rather have
him.
someone. Exactly. I would much rather have someone like that.
So but then there's a safeguard for that. Because all you'd have to do is just have a safety behind him. That's it. So that when you get past him, you don't get past the safety.
Well, he obviously gave up the most yards. Well, anyways, Deron Bland is balling.
Yeah.
For a rookie quarterback,
I'm
he is
talking to a
balling.
New York fan. I'm talking to a New York fan. I forgot. You probably never see it that way.
Oh, stop. Deron Bland is balling. I'll give him his flowers, though.
He's
Cornerback might be one of the hardest positions, if not, it's probably one of the toughest positions to play as a rookie.
You are backpedaling as the receiver is coming towards you, and you have to guard that guy.
Yeah, it might be the toughest. Quarterback, cornerback, and tackle might be the toughest positions to translate to the NFL from the college game. And Deron Bland is balling. He is balling right now.
I know we have to move on. But another factor to consider, they have a heck of a pass rush.
I was going to say that. That's the key to it all, is that pass rush. But Olu, why don't you go, man? Biggest takeaway.
So the biggest takeaway is I wasn't sold on them as a team. Definitely still not sold on the quarterback. But as a team, they're a threat in the AFC, and that's the Jaguars. They do have times where they slump, but the way Southern play, and I think ultimately Calvin Ridley is the key to that team. Once Calvin Ridley wakes up from his slumber, the team is unstoppable. It's unstoppable. And then Etienne runs the ball very well. It's like a mini Camara. So I do think Jacksonville Jaguars is a threat in the AFC. And if they do see the Chiefs in the playoffs once again, like they did last time, the results might be drastically different.
So you're saying you like Trevor Lawrence?
Because they almost beat the Chiefs last year. Is that right? In the second round of the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
they're better this year.
They're better this year.
They're good. Will, biggest takeaway.
All right. I want Philadelphia Eagles fans to listen closely because you're going to love this. The Philadelphia Eagles will win the Super Bowl this year, and here is why. It's a very specific reason. During the Bills-Eagles game on Sunday, as the Eagles are driving down, right, the fourth quarter, the clock is expiring, Jake Elliott lines up for a 59-yard field goal in the pouring rain.
Bro,
this is like
the rain.
Images of Adam Vinatieri, right, with the snow coming down, and he hits it, right? He kicks it, goes right through the uprights. They have cameras on Jason Kelsey and they have cameras on Jalen Hurts. So they're sitting on the bench, they're watching the kick go up, they look at the officials, they see that it's good, and all they did was they stood up, they got their helmets, and they had no reaction, no smile, no cheering, just the
And
job's not
cold
done.
blooded.
The job is not done. Time to go back to
Job not
work. They pull out the win, and that's their focus this year. They have not had the Super Bowl hangover that so many Super Bowl losing teams have. In fact, they're even better this year than last year across almost every statistical category. They will win the Super Bowl this year, and it's because of that focus and determination they showed on Sunday against the Bills.
Nice. I like that. Yo, guys, that's actually one of my favorite quotes in sports history. The job done? The job not
Job's
done.
not done.
Job's not done.
It's
Yeah,
not,
Kobe, he was like,
job,
job's not done.
not done.
That's
The
right.
job, the job not done.
Yeah, the Eagles, like I like to call them the Philadelphia Bulldogs. That's who
That
they
was-
are, man. They got
that was the dog in Kobe that said that. No, sorry, the Mamba.
my biggest takeaway is that I think the biggest challenge for the Chiefs to repeat the Super Bowl, who I think will win the Super Bowl, is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens are balling right now.
They
are balling, offense and defense. And here's the thing. The Baltimore Ravens do not care about your fantasy football team. For as good
do
as
not.
they are, I mean, hey, I know we love Lamar Jackson. I own Lamar Jackson in fantasy leagues. He has not been consistent for fantasy football. Like, he'll throw one touchdown
Right.
3 weeks in a row.
Yep.
It's not like he's rushing for 80 to 100 yards consistently. He's rushing for like 40 yards, throwing for 200 yards, and passing for a touchdown. And it's like, who do they have as a receiver? Zay Flowers is a baller. But he's not consistent. Odell Beckham, they keep teasing us. Oh, he's going to be back. And he doesn't break out. The running back, I hyped up Gus Edwards last week. Dude didn't even show up. So, I mean, but yet they still won. They still beat the Chargers 20-10. So it's like, they're going to be good, but how good are they for your fantasy team? I don't know. And you know why? They don't care. They don't care about your fantasy football team. That's what I got to say. That's my biggest takeaway is I'm just like, Baltimore, I don't know if I should have you in my roster. Well, I'm going to have Lamar. But outside of that, likely, no. Odell, no. Zay Flowers, if I have to. Running backs, forget about it. So it's like, that's my thought. Baltimore's defense, though? Heck yeah. Will, what you want to say, man?
Yeah, I love what the Ravens are doing. So I'm saying this very late into the season for our listeners, but the Ravens are my second favorite NFL team. I went to high school and college in Baltimore. I went to a ton of Ravens games when we lived there. So as my Titans season is done, I'm loving the Ravens. And I just wanted to say quickly, I think John Harbaugh is one of the most underrated coaches in the NFL.
Yes.
Because when you look
Yes.
you look at all the down seasons they've had, and a down season for the Ravens is still like 9-8, 10-7 is a down season. That's when Lamar has missed 4 or 5 games. Or before Lamar, when they had Joe Flacco, they would have all these other injuries. But when he has a healthy roster, they always look this good, like they're looking right now as the best team in the AFC going into week 13. So I just think he's underrated. I wanted to give him some props. I don't think he gets it.
I've heard that Lamar Jackson has missed less games than Joe Burrow over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's correct. And yet who's the
In that
one that
equation.
gets the injury risk label? Lamar does.
Right. Exactly.
But guys, do you remember Harburg in Baltimore? He was on the verge of getting fired before Lamar
Yep.
got.
I was just about to say that.
No, you're right. Lamar saved his job. No doubt about it.
What does that say?
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's look ahead. Okay, matchups to exploit. Fringe players who we want to encourage you as our listeners, get this person in your lineup. Who is it? Shed, go first.
So I was going to say, Brandon Cooks versus Seattle, but I'll go ahead and leave the Cowboy love for Will there because Brandon Cooks is in a good 3-game streak right now. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be a defense, right? I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Jacksonville defense versus Cincinnati,
Mm,
because there's some people are big on Jake Browning. You know, he had a decent first start, but now the Jags have film on him, right? He's a backup. Backups are backups for a reason, right?
yeah.
And I said this 2 weeks ago. This is a very opportunistic defense. They bend, but they don't break, and most importantly, they live off turnovers. They were they're either boom or bust, right? They were bust versus 49ers a few weeks ago. They were okay versus the Texans, but they're going to be boom versus Cincinnati here. I see two potential turnovers, maybe a pick six, maybe a scoop and score. Start this defense and don't let the Jake Browning hype cloud your judgment. Go ahead and put this defense in.
I feel like there are some teams that like streaming like defenses. I love to stream defenses. I love to
Yes.
stream defenses. And if I see somebody playing against the Jets, the Patriots, or like now it might be Cincinnati given Jake Browning, but a lot of these
Right.
teams, I'm like, if they're playing against them, I'm playing the defense. I don't care who it is. I'm playing them.
That's right.
I played the Giants defense last week in a league, and they got me 14 points because the Giants were playing the Patriots. Patriots stink. So it's like Jacksonville has an incredible pass rush. Trayvon Walker, University of Georgia, go Dogs. Josh Allen, who the Giants should have drafted instead of Daniel Jones. Those guys can ball. Jacksonville is a good defensive play. Do you guys have anything you want to say about that?
No, I think especially playing against a backup quarterback, and T. Higgins, I think, is still injured, right? Still injured.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's an easy outing for the Jaguars defense. They're going to be putting pressure on Browning all game long.
Olu, who is your matchup to exploit?
My matchup to exploit is Zach Moss. So Zach Moss has an amazing opportunity right now. So if he's on your bench, you might want to put him in your roster. If he's on your free agency, which he shouldn't be, you might want to get him. So Jonathan Taylor, who was taking most of the reps and most of the yards and touchdown from Zach Moss, he's hurt, he's injured. So this gives Zach Moss a perfect opportunity to restate himself. Not only that, he's also played the Titans, who have not been good with the offense or defense. So that gives Zach Moss a lot of opportunity. I see this as a case where the Colts will be ahead of Titans early, and it's gonna be a keep away game, which lends itself to running the ball. So I think Zach Moss is a matchup to exploit this week.
Yeah, it's a good call. The Titans' defense is not as good as I thought they were going to be, and they've had injuries and traded away their best player, which I already had my spiel about that.
When Zach Moss was a bell cow running back at the beginning of the season, he was balling. He was winning people weeks.
Yeah,
It doesn't help that the Clowney is doing an amazing job in with the Ravens.
So do I start Zach Moss, who I have on my team, or do I start Garrett Wilson, who's been pretty solid?
Zach Moss, easy. Not even a question.
Such an interesting relation with Garrett Wilson this year.
Easy?
Yes. What has Garrett Wilson done for you all year? You can't even start that man.
Tell Shed that. I've told Shed it's not a knock on Garrett Wilson's talent.
Has Garrett Wilson had more than 15 points in any game?
Most games he has. Garrett Wilson balls up.
He's actually surprisingly Garrett Wilson.
Hold on, I gotta look at this real quick. Let me look at this.
Okay, this is what I'll say. Garrett Wilson has not lived up to the hype this year from what he had coming in. But consider Garrett Wilson on the year has 64 catches, 700 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Okay, he has. Oh gosh, yes. Has he had more than 15 points? Yeah, last week he had 17.4. 3 weeks ago, 19.3. 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 18. So he scored.
I'm looking at it. Okay.
It just hasn't been. It hasn't been what we expected coming in from the reigning offensive rookie of the year with a Aaron Rodgers quarterback. But it hasn't been consistent. It hasn't been reliable. But it's been there. You know, he's been a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. He hasn't been a bust. I'll put it that way. Well, if you drafted him in the second round, yeah, you're disappointed. But
so here's
I took.
I'm still for this week, I'm still taking Zach Moss over
I'm
him.
taking.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah,
would this
you
week.
start Zach Moss. And so the Jets are playing Atlanta, which Atlanta has a sneaky good
Oh,
defense.
Atlanta's
And their
defense is
pass
solid.
defense is really good. So I would stay away from Garrett Wilson this week. But
Okay.
all right,
All right. Okay.
I'll do my matchup real quick. It's very simple. It's actually Jake Ferguson at the tight end position. The Cowboys tight end. They're playing the
Love it.
Seahawks on Thursday night. And the reason why is simply the tight end position has been decimated, right? You don't have Mark Andrews. You don't have Darren Waller. You don't have Dallas Goedert this week. Kyle Pitts is totally out of the rankings, right? It's such a shallow position. And Jake Ferguson has had a down 2-week period. The last 2 weeks he's had 4 receptions, 67 yards combined. But the Cowboys are going to light up the Seahawks. It's at home on Thursday night in Cowboy Stadium, and Jake Ferguson is going to be a beneficiary of that. So if you had injuries at tight end or there's no one else to start, put him in. I think he's actually going to have a bounce back week.
Yeah, some people think that Jake Ferguson is now Dak Prescott's second favorite receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true over Brandon Cooks, but I mean Ferguson, Dak likes a tight end. Dak has always liked passing to his tight ends.
Right.
Ferguson he's good. He's good.
Yep.
You know, my matchup to exploit. Get on the train now, Rashee Rice. Okay, listen.
Yeah.
I am a believer. I've stated this before. I am a believer in the Kansas City Chiefs. Rashee Rice just had his first 100-yard game. Now, I also think this. Rookie receivers, after their bye weeks, during the back third of the season, that's when they start to break out. That's when they really start to get opportunities. That's when, if they're on a losing team, that's where their snap count starts to go up. That's where their target share starts to go up. Now, the Chiefs obviously aren't a losing team. They're a winning team, but they're a winning team without a solid wide receiver. Rashee Rice is, I would say Rashee Rice is their most talented receiver. Okay. Now, Tony's talented, but Tony's not reliable. Rashee Rice could be that guy. Okay. Rashee Rice had 10 targets last week and 8 catches for 107 yards. I don't know the last time Patrick Mahomes, outside of Tyreek Hill, had a receiver go for over 100 yards, not named Travis Kelce. But Rashee Rice is going to ball. I think he's going to ball the rest of the way. And I'm going to say get him in your lineup this week against Green Bay. Put him in your lineup. I think he's going to make money. Rashee Rice is my play for the week.
So can I ask you a question? So you're sold on Rashee Rice, right?
I'm not saying I'm sold on him. I'm saying I think he's going to have a good back half of the year and to play him this week. I'm buying Rashee Rice. I'm not saying the guy's like a top 24 receiver. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is play him this week.
Play him this week. I'll just say it's looking more and more like he is the only receiver that Mahomes trusts. So that's huge. I mean, if Mahomes trusts him, he's going to keep going that way. If it's not Kelce, Rice is now the number 2 option.
I believe that 100%. 100%. I don't think Mahomes MVS, we everyone knows what he is. Tony's more interested in making mixtapes than playing wide receiver.
Sky Moore is not it.
I think Rashee Rice is that guy, to be honest. So what were you going to say, Olu? I cut you off, though. What were you going to say?
No, I thought you said you were, I'm sold on Ray Rice. So I was like, you're sold on Ray Rice, but you're not sold on Tank Dell. Like, what gives?
I hope you're not sold on Ray Rice anymore.
Rashee Rice.
Yeah, Rashee Rice. Well, you said he has his first 100 yards game. That's light work. But anyway, let's move on.
Olu, you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met. All right, matchups to avoid. Why don't we go first, Shed?
All right, so my matchup to avoid here is, again, this will be a Dallas Cowboy segment here. Geno versus the Dallas defense. Simple enough. Here's the thing. Geno is not really a good quarterback. Last year was an outlier season, right? He totally overperformed. Geno reminds me of remember Matt Castle, Derek Anderson, 1-year wonders, right? I mean, he had a good year and they end up getting paid. But Geno's Blake Bortles, right? Exactly. But Geno's average to below average quarterback, and the Dallas defense eat those guys for dinner. In the 3 games against good defenses, he's thrown 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Geno is who he is, and his contract is actually pretty team friendly. They can actually cut him after this year. His contract is that he had a signing bonus of $26 million and a base salary of about $1 million, and that was really just guaranteed for 2023 season. So it's a way that they can actually cut him this year and move on. So I'm not sold on Geno, and he is kind of who he is at this point. And against this Dallas defense, I feel like he'll be average to maybe okay at best. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, Geno's been a disappointment for a lot of people in fantasy football this year. That's for sure.
Sometimes you just gotta believe a guy. Like every coach thing. Like remember Jay Cutler? Every coach wanted to try to flip him and change him and feel like they could use him, but he was who he was. You are after about year 3, right? You kind of are who you are. Zach Wilson. They had faith in Zach Wilson, but he is who he is at this point, right? He's a backup quarterback.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving. Olu, matchup to avoid.
So this is a big one. Matchups to avoid. I would say avoid Jamar Chase.
Ooh.
I know. It's sad. Sad day.
Yeah, it's sad. It just is what it is. For one, they're playing we talked about this already. The Jaguars are a really good defense. Of course, it can be had. Absolutely. But they are still a good defense. They can be had, except the Bengals don't have a quarterback that can have a defense. That makes sense. So, because of that reason, I would say avoid Jamar Chase. He doesn't have anybody throwing the ball, and he's playing a good defense. So, just find somebody else and just put in the spot.
I feel so bad for him. I really do. Because the beginning of this season, he wasn't doing anything because Burrow had the calf, and he just couldn't throw. Right? He couldn't. There was no zip on the ball. Burrow gets healthy. It looks like it's starting to take off. And then he's got the snap ligaments in the wrist. And it feels like a lost season for their whole offense, but especially for Jamar Chase. It's brutal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it happens.
No, for everybody. I mean, Jamar Chase, terrible. T. Higgins in a contract year, can't get on the field.
Oh, my gosh.
That's right.
He's gonna get lowballed.
Oh, yeah.
He is. Part of me thought at one point, I was like, I wonder if the Bengals are keeping him off the field to lower his market value. That's what I honestly think that's what the Ravens did with. I think that's what the Ravens did with Lamar last year, but it didn't work because Lamar cashed in. But
yeah,
I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if they're doing that, T. Higgins, to try to, but it's just a disaster. Well, I don't want to say, I wouldn't call it a disaster. It's just sad, man. Honestly, it's just sad. Will, matchup to avoid.
Yeah, mine is very quick. I'm going to say avoid A.J. Dillon this week against the Chiefs. So I was one of the people who thought this might be A.J. Dillon's year to finally start producing because Aaron Jones is in the last year of his contract and he's been hurt for about half this year. But A.J. Dillon just doesn't have it. He's getting all the touches out of the backfield. He's getting all the opportunities. He just doesn't have the speed. He doesn't do enough in the passing game. This man has not topped 12 fantasy points, PPR fantasy points, in a single game all year. Has not had more than 12 points. And this week against the Chiefs, who have a great defense, and in particular a great run defense, and Nick Bolton is coming back, you don't want to start A.J. Dillon, and I might stay away from the Packers' offense in general this week because of that matchup with the Chiefs.
Whew. So A.J. Dillon, he's had an interesting career so far, right? I mean, he came out, got drafted, second round or so. They were thinking, okay, he's going to replace Aaron Jones, but then they give Jones that new contract, and he produced, right? He was really, really good. So Dillon was kind of that backup, and at points throughout his career, he's had highs and he's done well. But this year, where he's probably had the most opportunity, he hasn't really panned out to where we expect him to be. I remember in Dynasty League, I was trying to trade to get him from various people because he's kind of circled around different teams, right? But he just hasn't been producing this year.
I feel like A.J. Dillon's one of those guys that's just better suited in a running back by committee. You know,
Yes, it's
I
true.
think there are some guys who just they produce much better when they don't have to be the 3 down back. Like could AJ Dillon be one of those guys that his efficiency is better? Possibly.
Oh, I think
Possibly.
absolutely. And with that, it means he's never going to be a reliable fantasy starter.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. My guy. Oh wait, is it my turn? It is
It
my turn.
is.
Yeah.
The guy I'm gonna say to avoid is actually DeAndre Swift, and
Yeah.
I like DeAndre Swift because he went to the University of Georgia, but I don't like DeAndre Swift because he's an undersized running back. But the reality is, he does not get goal line carries because of the brotherly shove or the tush push. This week he's playing against San Francisco, but also PFF has him rated, I believe, outside the top 12. They have him rated at number 15 this week. But the
Okay.
reality is, he's fun to watch. He'll make a good play here and there. But as far as his play overall within the last month or so, I don't think he's the guy you want to be counting on this week, especially if you're trying to get in the playoffs. I'm just not going to play him against San Francisco. San Francisco has a tough defense. The Eagles have a very good offense. They're clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough because he's talented and he's on a good team that's putting up points. Last week he had 9.4. The week before that, 19.7. That's amazing. But the week before that, 9.4 again. So it's like,
Yeah,
I
not a
don't
good
know,
week.
man.
Not a good week for an Eagles running back.
I'm staying away from him this week. Olu, you want to say something about that? What do you think, man?
I don't know because I do have him in my fantasy, and it's been good. He's been good for me in my fantasy. Like he puts me like when I needed something from him, it gives it to me. Yeah, I just think that I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that pretty much.
Yeah, I mean
So,
it's a risky one. It's a risky one. I mean he's been a guy you could plug in your lineups. I'm just saying this week is he the guy? If he's a flex play, I would look for a better option. If you have a better option in the flex, I would throw him in. Like Zach Moss, I'd play Zach Moss over him.
Yes,
You know,
I agree. I agree with that.
Garrett Wilson. What about Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson versus DeAndre Swift.
What about no seriously, Garrett Wilson or DeAndre Swift this week?
Garrett Wilson.
so if you want steady Eddie, Garrett Wilson. I'm telling you, Garrett Wilson, he won't give you 30, but he'll give you about 12 or 13, minimum, right?
I'll
Because
take Garrett Wilson. I'll take Garrett Wilson.
yeah, he's. I mean, unfortunately, I mean he's pretty reliable even with those bad quarterbacks.
So what we're gonna do now, guys, we're gonna do debate time, okay? It took us a while to figure out exactly what we're gonna debate about. And after messaging each other throughout the day, going back and forth, we just decided, how about we name a player and just debate if he's overrated or underrated, okay? Now, keep in mind, we are talking about fantasy football, okay? So
Correct.
as a fantasy football player, is he underrated or overrated, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'll just name a player at let's start with quarterback, okay? As a fantasy quarterback, ooh, how about this one? This is a good one. As a fantasy quarterback, Jordan Love. Overrated or underrated? Right now, he is quarterback number 9.
Is he rated?
Right. What
He's quarterback 9.
Right, but who is out there rating him right now, which would tell you he's
Yeah.
underrated.
Underrated.
I would
right.
say under.
Overappreciated or underappreciated?
Yeah, I say under. Top
Under.
10 fantasy quarterback, and he's never talked about with the top guys. So I think under for him. That's wild.
What do you think, Olu?
Yeah, under. Because he's not rated at all.
I could really use Jordan Love right now. I had him in our dynasty league and traded him away for nothing. I think like a 3rd and 4th rounder. Oh my gosh, if I had just been patient.
So
did.
back in
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
no, go ahead, Will.
That's it. That's
Go
it.
ahead.
I'm kicking myself. I should have held on to Jordan Love.
I remember
I
you
chose
were-
Trey Lance. I chose Trey Lance over Jordan Love. I'm like, oh, he's coming
You
back.
were dangling him around in that league you were trying to get like, I remember one time you offered me like you offered me like Jordan Love for like a future third or a future
Which
fourth.
would have
And I
been
was like,
such a good deal for you.
I don't want that Jordan Love guy. Forget it. Like, I remember I even messaged Shed about that, and Shed was like, Will is trying to get rid of him because he doesn't want to have to drop him. If you're really
I
that interested
know.
in him, wait till Will drops him. But we know what Jordan Love is, and he's not worth it. And now the guy's a top 10 fantasy quarterback. What?
Crazy. Doesn't make any sense. Unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely underrated. It's just that the reason is because the Packers have come out to a slow start. They don't have a good record, right? You don't really see those big passing yards from them, so there's still more to be desired from him. So it kind of suppressed his fantasy value.
Interesting.
And also Christian Watson, it seems like he's game back.
Yeah. How about this one? How about a running back? Let's talk about what are you guys' thoughts here on Kyron Williams? Kyron Williams.
Well, what did he just had like 40 fantasy points
40,
last Sunday
Yes.
against the Cardinals.
Kyron Williams just had 40 He just had 143 yards, 6 catches, 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns receiving.
Well, okay, so I'll look at it from this perspective that in most leagues he wasn't even drafted. In most
He
fantasy leagues,
wasn't.
because Cam Akers, you remember Sean McVay all through training camp preseason, Cam Akers is going to be a very important part of our offense this year. Nope, by week 7 or whatever it was, he's traded, tears the Achilles again. I feel bad for that man. Kyron Williams, I think he was undrafted, so I would say he's still underrated. He's one of my guys that I think could be a league winner. If you're a playoff team and you just had him come back and you're going into the fantasy playoffs in 3 weeks, he could be a league winner this year.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he is underrated. I mean, all transparency aside here, for full transparency, I do have him on my team, on my dynasty league, and I am a Kyron Williams fan. Seeing how he got 40, 45, 46 points this past week, he's definitely under.
Yeah.
People don't see him as a solid guy because he just came out of quote unquote nowhere. But if you've been looking at him all seasons long, okay, if he wouldn't have gotten injured, he'd be probably RB1 or 2 at this point.
What?
I mean, he was putting up big points had he not gotten injured. He was on 4? He was on IR, so 4 weeks, right? So
Yeah.
So like him getting injured, so
Wow.
he definitely be top 3, top 4 because he was like 3 or 4 when he actually went out. So yes, so his value is underappreciated.
I just have a hard time. I mean, like, you look at the guy's numbers and you looked at how they use him. Like, I watched a little bit of the game and I was like, golly, they're giving him the ball all day. Like, they were up by a lot of points and still giving him the ball.
Yeah.
But I just have a hard time jumping on this train for Kyron Williams because it's like, who is he? Where did he come from?
I don't even know. What college did he play at? Do any of us
I have
know
no clue.
off the top of your head?
Notre Dame.
If Olu doesn't know, then the man didn't go to college. So
No, Notre Dame, Shed said.
But
Yeah,
wasn't he the one that said he led the nation in rushing yards?
when?
Kyron
Yeah.
Williams?
I think so.
I don't think so.
I think
What?
No, I don't think Notre Dame has ever had a
don't know. I could be wrong.
national leading
But
rusher.
there's a running back. I forgot who, or maybe he hasn't. Yeah,
I don't
I
think
don't know
so.
about that. Yeah, he went to Notre Dame. What did he get in college? How many?
But we're
So-
going to say he's underrated is the conclusion, right?
That's our conclusion.
So the reason, Matt, why it's hard because the last 2 games. So this game and the last game that he played prior to his injury, he was averaging 7 to 8 yards per pop in each game. Like that's the dominance that he showed. And then it took him a while to get going. He had one other 100-yard game before that. So I think people don't really see that. But this guy is the Rams are featuring him and he's getting
Sure.
7. If you're getting 7 or 8 yards of carry, they're gonna keep feeding you. To answer your point, Matt, like why are they still giving the ball? Because he's getting close to a first down on every carry. So like they're gonna keep giving him the ball.
This is true.
Mm.
This is true. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about a receiver. If we talked about Tank Dell,
Oh no.
why don't we?
No, let's do it. Do Tank Dell. I need to hear everybody's opinion. Let's go.
What are we gonna even say about Tank Dell?
He's
All you're
off
gonna say is
limits,
nope.
limits right now. For
All
this.
you're gonna do is nobody listen to me. Tank Dell is better than Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's all you're gonna talk about.
No, you're right. So let's hear it. What do people think?
Why don't you just give us a rant, Olu? Here.
I'm not doing that. I want everybody heard what I have to say.
How about this one? How about this one for wide receivers? Devontae Adams.
Whoa, what do you mean?
If he's
Explain.
overrated or underrated,
Yes.
I would say for his career, underrated.
No. Right now, this season,
Oh,
at this moment,
this season. Well, what is he right now? Wide receiver what in fantasy? Because he hasn't had good
he is
quarterback
wide
play.
receiver 13. It's wide receiver 13. I'll start off. I think he's overrated.
Mm.
I think he is.
I think the Raiders are a disaster right now. I like Antonio Pierce as a coach, but that quarterback, O'Connell.
Right, O'Connell. Yeah.
I mean, listen, defensive-minded coaches usually want to run the ball more, and
Yeah.
I believe that's what Antonio Pierce is going to want to do. When Antonio Pierce first took over the job for the Raiders, Josh Jacobs blew up. Okay, I don't think Devontae Adams is going to have a strong finish to the year. That's just my take on him. I think he's overrated. I think his ranking is going to drop down as we go forward here.
Yeah, I have him in my redraft league, and he hasn't put up the numbers I've needed. Like, get this, he's only had 100-yard receiving game this year, but he went for 172, right? So that kind of boosted him up.
Yeah.
So he's got now. Granted, though, he's had O'Connell, and then Garoppolo's been out and stuff like that. So yeah, he's over in this year. I have to go with Matt. I think he's overrated. He only has four touchdowns or so this year. So, and we're in week 12, 13.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I hate to use the word overrated because sometimes one of those players, the skills is still the skills, but in terms of the production. Oh, I would like that better. His production value is overrated. I'll put that.
Yeah.
I'll put it.
He's normally ranked as like a top 5 or top 8 fantasy receiver in the league. So this year he is overrated. He's not the guy that's going to be winning you weeks. That definitely not this
I
season.
feel like what has always put him over some of the other guys is his ability to get in the end zone.
That's right. His touchdowns,
And
always that.
this year has been anemic for him. I mean, last year he scored 14. The year before that, 11. The year before that, 18. This year he's
Wow.
at 4.
So I have a question: who needed who more, Rodgers or Devontae?
I think Rodgers needed Devontae more in the last few years in Green Bay. Devontae was the only receiver, and Rodgers would get so frustrated throwing. He was throwing to MVS, okay, before Mahomes was. Throwing to Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Equanimous St. Brown. Devontae was all he had. I think Rodgers needed Devontae more than Devontae needed
Yeah, I agree
Rodgers.
with that. But I agree with that. But I'm also not going to dare say that means Rodgers was any less of a quarterback, though, because Rodgers was hands down one of the most talented quarterbacks the league has seen.
But that's the problem, though. So one of my many theories, he's so talented that he needs someone who on the same level as he is to actually make the passes work. Because if he's so talented, if he has like less talent people with him, it wouldn't work well. So that's
so what about this? What about Rodgers, let's say, is on his talent level. Last year he had 14, 15 touchdowns. he was a top 5 wide receiver, and he had Derek Carr throwing to him.
That's right.
Derek Carr is not on his level. He's better than Derek Carr.
No.
Derek
I
Carr,
mean for Rodgers. I was saying Rodgers.
Olu's trying to throw shade at Rodgers. Ultimately, that's what he's trying to do.
No. It's not straight. It's not straight. It's just he's so good that it's hard for him to bring people up to his
No,
level.
I'm actually with Olu. Because I feel like I know exactly what you're saying on this, and I agree 100% with Olu because the types of throws that Aaron Rodgers could make with Devontae Adams, he couldn't do that with any other receiver. So he did it with Jordy Nelson, right, back in the day,
Right.
and then it like the baton got passed to Devontae Adams because they both mastered the back shoulder throw, but in this tight window, and it had to be perfect timing. Perfect timing. And so no other receiver on the Packers could make that catch or even run that route. And so I think Rodgers he got frustrated with these other guys because he would throw a perfect pass, but the receivers actually did not have the talent, route running hands, whatever, awareness to be in the spot. Because it's like if you're off by a millisecond with Aaron Rodgers, it's an incomplete pass. And Devontae was the only one who could do that. So I hear what Olu's saying, and yeah, I think Rodgers needed Devontae more those last few years because of the way he was playing with such precision. It sounds crazy, but I don't think any other receiver they had would have been able to I don't think if you take Devontae out, I don't think you could even have had 3 of those Packers receivers have the combined numbers. Certainly not the combined touchdowns that Devontae had. That would be my argument.
Yeah, I remember it was like 10 years ago when Rodgers made James Jones the touchdown leader
I
for all
know.
wide receivers. The guy had like 15 touchdowns or something like that.
Yeah, James Greg Jennings. Remember Greg Jennings? Dude was like a Pro
Greg
Bowl.
Jennings was a baller,
He was
man.
a Pro Bowl receiver with Rodgers.
He had Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, and then he had all these guys like St. Brown and MVS and Lazard,
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
Why don't we skip tight ends for time's sake? Because our time is getting crazy. We've got to get. Are you guys cool with that, or do you want to do a tight end as well?
Let's do the single game mock, our favorite thing.
Yeah, our favorite thing. Okay, so here we go. Final segment of the day. Also, to our listeners, if you want to hear us debate about something, put something in the chat. Give us something. Give us some content, okay? Single game mock. What we do here is we have a running score on the year. We take the Thursday night game and we do our own single game mock draft, 2 rounds, snake draft style. We only draft quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. No, excuse me. We do not draft quarterbacks.
No.
Only running backs, receivers, and tight ends, okay? We keep it interesting in that way. We've been doing it since week 2, and for the longest time, Olu has been in first place. But last week, we had a premonition. And we said after the draft, we said, Olu, this is where your reign ends.
Yes.
Shed has surpassed Olu. Shed has 291 points. Olu has 281. I have 234. And Will has 216 points. But Will had the best week last week, thanks to Christian McCaffrey.
I finally broke the 200 barrier. Okay. Finally broke 200 points.
All right, before we go, I have a grievance to air out. So why haven't I picked first in the last 5 months?
Wait, what?
No, it's a rotation. We each pick first once every 4 weeks.
Olu, you just picked first when you picked Jamar Chase like 2 weeks ago.
That was the first overall pick was Jamar.
You took Jamar. It was like 2 weeks ago.
And don't be salty that's the game when Burrow got hurt. We didn't know.
All right.
That's one.
This week's Thursday night game is the Seattle Seahawks at the Dallas Cowboys. Actually, a lot of skill players. Last week, we actually had the Seahawks last week again.
I know.
Also last week. So it's a repeat because they had the Thursday night game against, who did they play last week, guys? Was it the Niners?
Yeah,
it was the Niners last week.
Yeah.
Yep. So this week, I have the first pick, followed by Shed, then Olu, and then Will. And then we'll snake back around. So the first overall pick is actually, for me, pretty easy because he's a guy that I think is a top 3 fantasy wide receiver going forward. And I will take Sedarius Lamb.
Easy pick.
With the first overall pick. Yeah, I think that's an easy pick, man. I think it's hands down.
Of course.
This is where, well, I was gonna say this is where I catch up to some of you guys, but I don't think that's possible right now. I think I gained some traction here. Give me CD Lamb.
All right.
CD. Okay, so this. Oh, based upon who they're playing this week, I am going to pick Pollard
Oh,
Right?
I wanted him to slip.
because I'm not. I don't think. I think what's his name? Gino's gonna be limited. So Pollard.
Okay.
Tony Pollard Greens. Love it.
It's Kenneth
Good
Walker.
pick.
No.
You like that one, don't you?
Yeah. Kenneth Walker, I think, is still hurt. But you can pick him.
He's still-
That's a good pick, Olu. Kenneth Walker with the 3rd overall pick.
Well, we helped you out last week when you wanted to pick him.
No, I'm pretty
We told
sure
you not-
I'm pretty sure he's still hurt.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Cowboys tight end.
Oh, really?
Oh, Jake Ferguson?
Oh, Ferguson. Okay.
Somebody's been listening to the Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast.
I know. Actually, that's the
So wait, of the first 3 picks were all Cowboys players. What's this saying?
Don't say that out loud.
What's this saying?
Oh, man. All right, I have the next 2, so that helps a little bit.
It does. And there's some good players
Okay.
out there, man.
I think Dallas's pass defense is a little better than their run defense. They're very thin at linebacker. So I'm going to take these 2 guys back to back. With the 4th pick, give me Charbonnet, because I just think he'll get a lot of touches, especially if Geno is less than 100%. And then give me Brandon Cooks with the 5th overall pick.
Cooks. Okay.
Whoa!
Oh.
Whoa!
Yeah, over
Whoa!
DK and over Lockett. Absolutely.
Golly! Brandon Cooks.
Yes.
I think with those pick, we pretty much ran out of Cowboys.
Oh, you.
So
We did run
With
out of
the-
Cowboys.
yeah,
Deuce Vaughn is still available.
Michael Gallup. Luke Schoonmaker.
with the 6th pick, I'll do something Belichick did not do. I'll pick DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Was that? Wait a second. Who did they take instead of Metcalf that year? They took another receiver. Oh, N'Keal
Yeah, they
Harry.
took
N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry.
Wow.
What was he? Arizona State?
Terrible.
But that's AJ Brown, Debo, and DK, and Terry McLaurin. Those are who he passed by.
I looked at. I remember DK's combine, and I just remember seeing that picture of him with no shirt on, and I was like,
That's enough.
"Who the heck is this man?"
No.
I was like, "That is a man from Wakanda. That's where he's from." Golly.
He's one of my subjects.
What?
He said he's one of us. Olu. It would take 2 men your size to rip his picture in half, Olu. Like, just,
I could tackle him though.
Okay.
Here we go
All right,
again.
let me. Yeah. This is a good time for me to go here.
Yes, please, Shed.
Let me. So, this guy has been boom or bust, kind of one week high, 1 week low.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay,
hoping
now.
for a boom. Let's go in and go lock it.
I already knew as soon as you said that.
yeah, that's who
Overrated.
I had last week. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I don't have to make that choice because last week I had to make the choice between Lockett and JSN, and I was like, and at the end of the day, I don't think it really even mattered which one I picked because I think they both have the same amount
I
of
have a
production.
question for you guys.
What's that?
I have a question for you guys, and this might help our viewers as well. In a dynasty fantasy, how long should be the average time you hold on to a receiver before trading him? Because I would imagine someone held on to Lockett for longer than they should.
I've done.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
That
What
is a
a-
good question.
Running back, I'll say 3 years. Just to move off.
Yeah, I move off of running backs before they get to their second contract. I tried unless it's like their talent is just beyond like, okay, hold on to this guy. but I try to move on to, move
So
on from him. But receiver?
like Mike Evans. If you have Mike Evans, do you move off him now or what? Like I don't know. Does he
Well,
still-
here's the thing. Matt and I have had this conversation a couple of times. 9 or 10 years, and then you start to see a decline. But like Mike Evans, I picked him up 2 years ago, right? And he's still been productive.
Yo, Shed, who worked out that trade for you?
Your predecessor, we know. Hold on, we got it. Matt hasn't made his last pick yet.
Okay,
I think it's gonna be Noah Fant.
No.
Gallup.
I think it's going to be Olu's favorite rookie receiver, Jackson
Oh,
Smith
Lord.
and Jigba. Give it to him.
Lord.
Give it to me. The Ohio State product who outperformed Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave his sophomore year of college, Jackson Smith and Jigba, because I think this will be a game in which he goes over 100 yards because rookie receivers break out on the back third of the season. Eat it, Olu, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Give them to me.
You know what? I agree with you. Rookie receivers break out on the back end, but elite rookie receivers break out from the jump.
I think there's truth to that.
I think there's a question behind your question, but the listeners already know how much you love Tank Dell.
Tyreek Hill's an elite receiver. He didn't break out off the jump.
Tyreek
Hill.
Devontae Adams, elite receiver, took him 3 years.
Yeah.
That's old NFL. This is new NFL.
This is new NFL. New NFL. Make way for the tank. Make way for the tank. But you know what? That is our episode today. Thank you so much for stopping in. Come back next week. Next week, we'll have our Week 13 recap and our Week 14 preview. Get ready for the playoffs. Thanks again for stopping in with your hosts, Shed, Olu, Will, and Matt. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next week.